Hello everybody, welcome to session 2 of your PSHE topic on racism and inequality. Really important issue all the time, and obviously it's been in the news a lot at the moment, some of the issues to do with racism and the protests that have been happening, so very relevant to look at this at the moment. Okay, so in the last session you should have gone through some information helping you to understand what the Black Lives Matter movement is and what it aims to achieve. So what I'd like you to do to try and remember what you did last week is to answer this question. Why does the Black Lives Matter movement exist and what does it aim to achieve? And if you can't really remember, I've put here a little cartoon, a meme I guess, and an image of a young girl carrying a placard, which might help you to jog your memory. So if you could please have a little look at these images, write down an answer to the question. As I said to you last week, if you don't have a PSHE book, a bit of paper or the back of your English book is absolutely fine. Please pause the video, do the task and then restart the video. Okay, so hopefully you remembered and you saw from this that the Black Lives Matter movement isn't about suggesting that other people's lives don't matter. It's recognising that black people sometimes are treated badly and disadvantaged in society. So it's a movement designed to raise awareness of this and to focus our attention on the fact that it's not okay for white people to have a better deal, if you like, than black people. Okay, so the other thing I taught you about in the last session was white privilege, which is a complex term, but I think if you understand it, then it can be much more straightforward. So all I'd like you to do, please, again, is to pause the video and from memory, can you remember what the term white privilege means? Can you think of any examples of white privilege? So please pause the video and answer those two questions. Okay, so hopefully you were able to write some things down. So just the kind of answers to those two questions, you can check against yours. White privilege is not usually intentionally done by individuals, and it doesn't mean all white people are racist. It means that systems in society have been historically set up to give white people an advantage or to suit the needs of white people because positions of power have been held by white men. White people can use their privilege to challenge this unfairness. So it's not that all white people are racist or all white people have it easy. It's about this idea that because of the way history has worked, white people tend to have advantages which black people don't. And there's some examples here. White people dominate the front covers of magazines. White actors get the majority of leading roles in movies. White people hold most of the positions of authority and power in government and what have you. White young people dominate the intake at Oxford and Cambridge, the two top universities in this country. White people are less likely to be followed by the police or searched. So examples of the way people who are white get a better deal in society than people who are black. Okay, so we're going to build on that knowledge today, and we're going to use again some complex terms and complex words. And they're not difficult to understand, but sometimes the language seems difficult. So what I've created on this slide is just a little glossary of some words I'll be using. So if you come across these words, just rewind the video back or look at these slides on Show My Homework, just to remind yourself of what these words mean. Okay, so the main thing I want to talk to you about today is this concept of systemic racism. Now, I'm guessing most of you know what racism is. It's when people are prejudiced against someone of a different race, when they say horrible things or treat them badly, think bad things about them because they have a different skin colour. Now, systemic racism is basically when racism becomes so ingrained it's seen as normal. So it's not as obvious in a sense as other forms of racism. It's not about people going out and calling other people names or saying horrible things. It's about the structures of our society discriminating against people due to their skin colour. And this includes stereotyping. Now, stereotyping, as you can see on this glossary, is when we have a widely held view about a particular type of person or group. So we can stereotype, we can have a view or belief about black people And we can make unfair judgments because of those stereotypes without really knowing the truth. Many people believe that systemic racism exists in the police and criminal justice, which again doesn't necessarily mean that individual officers go out to be racist, but it's statistically proven that black people are more likely to be treated like criminals because of bias and ignorance. So obviously that's really concerning and really a difficult thing to live with if you're a black person, that actually the stereotypes and ideas society holds means you're more likely to be treated like a criminal, even if you're not doing anything wrong. And another term that's useful for you to know is unconscious bias. So often these assumptions we make are without us really realising we're doing it. They're totally unfair and inaccurate when we judge people just because of their skin colour, but we don't actually always realise we're doing it. And we call this unconscious bias. And I've got loads of examples of how unconscious bias can lead to systemic racism, and I've just picked 4 that I think are interesting. White job applicants were found to be 74% more likely to have success when applying for a job than applicants from ethnic minorities with identical CVs. So if they could identify from the CV that somebody was from an ethnic minority, they were much less likely to get an interview. That's a shocking statistic. University professors were found to be far more likely to respond to emails from students with white-sounding names. US doctors have been found to recommend less pain medication for black or Latino patients than white patients with the same injury. Very strange, isn't it? White participants in a study were found to perceive black faces as more threatening than white faces with the same expression. So just 4 examples of different ways in which people are unconsciously judging black people in a way which is judgmental but also renders them as inferior. So it's really important that we're aware of this, because if we're not aware of it, we can't challenge it and we can't change the way people behave, and we can't consider whether we ourselves behave in this way. Okay, on this slide are some graphs produced by the Guardian newspaper. They did a survey of 3,000 people to find out whether people who are black, Asian or minority ethnic have a different experience of life to white people. They found that 43% of black, Asian or minority ethnic people felt that they had been overlooked for a promotion at work for unfair reasons, compared with only 18% of white people. They found that 38% of BAME, black, Asian, minority ethnic people found they had been treated as a shoplifter when they had done nothing wrong, compared to only 14% of white people. And 25% of BAME people had been refused or asked to leave a restaurant, bar or club for no reason, compared with only 9%. Now, when you consider that there's significantly more white people in the UK than BAME people, those statistics become even more shocking. What I'd like to do is to copy and complete these 2 sentences. The results of this survey suggest that people who are black, Asian or from an ethnic minority are. This suggests unconscious bias because. So please pause this slide, copy and complete the sentences, and then restart the slides. And anyone can hold these unconscious biases. Anyone can make snap decisions and judgments based on stereotypes and ideas that are in our society without really meaning to. Now, I've given you one example here. A white lady leaves a store and sees a group of young black men stood in a group chatting. She walks in a different direction to avoid them because she makes a judgment that they could be dangerous, but doesn't do the same thing when she sees a group of young white men stood chatting. Now, I think we see so much in the media about young black people being gangs and being violent, that's actually understandable in a sense, isn't it? That you could make that judgment. But actually, that would be an unconscious bias. That would be us acting on a simplified judgment of a group of young men, that we applying stereotypes and ideas that we don't necessarily apply to white people. The good thing is, as much as we can all hold these unconscious biases, we can make these snap decisions. We all have the power to reflect on our associations and make a conscious effort to change. We can think about whether our judgments about groups or individuals of people are based on an understanding of an individual, or whether we're making a simplified decision based on a stereotype. You don't need to worry about this. You don't need to spend your time feeling paralysed in communication as if you can't act or say things. We just need to educate ourselves. The better we understand different racial groups, different cultures, and why we might hold certain ideas due to the media, due to history, due to our own lack of knowledge, the more we can empower ourselves to understand the world better and not make judgments. And what I'd like to do is to put yourself on the other side of it for a moment. If you're someone who has never experienced these kind of racist judgments, can you please imagine for a second if someone looked at you for one moment and without knowing anything about you as an individual, they think that you could be a gang member, you could be troublesome, you could be a terrorist, you could be a criminal, you could be a thief, you could be a danger. How would that make you feel? And if that happened to you every day for several years, how would you start to feel in society? And I think it's incredibly difficult to imagine that. But if you can take a minute or two to pause this video and to think about why it's so important that white people don't just make simplistic judgments about black people, that would be great. And when you've had a moment to think, could you restart the video, please? Now, of course, in our last session, we talked a little bit about George Floyd, the gentleman in America who was killed by a policeman who thought he was a criminal, who made a judgment, and in that moment, a man lost his life. Now, it may well be that that officer was racist, but a lot of people believe that it's not just about one officer being racist, it's about systemic racism. It's about a whole society and system of beliefs which can actually be really negative to all of us. And sadly, George Floyd is not the only one. He's first of many. Many people have been wrongfully killed by the police because of the colour of their skin. So at a lower level, we can have the lady avoiding a group of young black men because she thinks they might be a gang, thinks they might be dangerous. And then on an extreme version of that, we can have people actually losing their lives because of those judgments, calls being made by people in positions of authority and power. So for all of us, it's essential if we want to live in a world which is equal and fair and where everybody can aspire to achieve, that we all assess our position and our own attitudes. So I'd just like to leave you on this video with these points. That understanding systemic racism, understanding the way our society is structured so that it can reward some races and marginalise others, isn't just bad for the people on the receiving end, but actually society, cultures that are silenced can't contribute to a happy and prosperous society. So it's better for everybody if systemic racism can be eliminated once and for all. If at individual level we assess our own attitudes, and then society as a whole, the power structures become more even and fair. Can you please, when you finish this video, pick up the next one? So go back to the Google form where you started watching this video. You'll see there's a second video and I need you to watch that one as well, please. Thank you, guys.